some point in your life, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I was, of course, born Christian. I just
Yeah.
I read a lot,
Only fish
and I was
today.
just interested in reading scripture. So I used to read all kind of stuff. So I happened to come across the Holy Quran and I read it, and I didn't accept it for about
There was a.
13 or
I
14
think
years.
there's this lady, Miss
I
Stephanie.
put
Wow.
the Quran
I don't
away.
think she
After I
wants
read it,
to
I said,
discuss anything
this
really.
is the truth. But I wasn't ready to become a Muslim.
Yeah.
So I put it away. I put it up at the top of my
It's a little
closet.
bit. It
You know,
seems to
they
be
say
getting
put it
quiet almost every
in a
week.
high spot. I did that, and then I went on about my life.
Yeah,
Because
maybe
in truth, I had some
maybe it
evil that
depends
I
on the
needed to
time.
attend to.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
you know. I mean,
fine as
people
well,
wanted
actually.
to.
I understand. Yeah.
People,
It gets a bit
especially
busy
young
later
people. I
on,
was
like
very young when I read it.
10, 11.
I just wasn't ready
Right.
to
Yeah.
become a Muslim at that time. That was about
Actually, I
15
think
years
was
ago.
it Brother Bilal?
Was it out
And
of
then I
fear of what
became.
everyone
over
would
there
think
to have
of
a
you?
conversation with someone about something
Or
that you might be
Sometimes it is
Yeah.
that. Sometimes it could be that.
Yeah, that certainly
be worth
played a
going and have a look
part,
what's going on
but
over there.
in truth, I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to be young and, you know, and do what young people do, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a phase a lot. Some people go through. A lot of us go through, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh yeah. This. Do you have any other questions? If not, appreciate your questions.
Also, I think this person
No,
is
Do you
not-
actually know?
his first time here.
Actually, do you mind if I tell you the story of how the first revelation came to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? So he was 40 years. So he was 40 years old, and he would used to. There's a cave outside of Mecca, in the city of Mecca, which is in modern day Saudi Arabia, but it's in the Arabian Peninsula. It's close to the
Mhm.
Red Sea, and basically he would seclude himself in a cave, right, outside the city of Mecca, to pray and to ponder. He was troubled by all the injustices that were going on in the city of Mecca. It was an idol worshipping city. It's just so many different. They would bury their daughters alive. That's how ashamed they were to have wives. The women were treated very poorly. The poor were treated very poorly. It was just a bad place overall. And he would seclude himself in a cave outside of Mecca, often to escape this place. And he never worshipped any of the idols. He never believed in any of their idols. He never engaged in any of these things. In fact, he was actually known by his people as Sadiq. You okay, man? Is your neck hurting? uh, he was known as a Sadiq al-Amin, honest and upright, right? Isn't it?
I think he's just agreeing and as in
I
unmuting.
know. It's just it looks like you're doing this. Yes.
Yeah.
hey guys, I have to
Very
take off.
dramatic.
It's been fun. I'll try to catch
do
up
that,
with you
man.
guys again.
Yeah, catch you later, man.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks for all your
Alaikum salam.
answers and
Okay,
opinions.
Miss Stephanie, take care.
You too.
So basically, what happened was, one day when he was at the age of 40, he went up to this cave again, like many other times, and he found himself surrounded by light, and he saw the archangel Gabriel. The angel Gabriel appeared to him, right, standing before him, and he said to him, "Read." "I cannot read," the Prophet Muhammad said, because he was an illiterate man, right? And I hear that I know that he even grabbed him and squeezed him and took hold of him and squeezed him, and I don't know the exact details, but essentially he said to him, "Read, Iqra, read." And then he said, "I cannot read." "Read," he said again. "Cannot read." The third time he said, "Read in the name of your Lord, the Creator. He created man from a congealed clot of blood. Read. Your Lord is the most bounteous who taught the use of the pen. He has taught man what he does not know." This is actually Surah Al-Alaq in the Quran. I forget which number it is. And then he vanished. And then the Prophet, peace be upon him, was shaking with fear and confusion. He ran out of the cave, stumbled out of the cave, and ran for home. He was doubting what he had seen. It was, as most people would. And then on the way up down the mountain, the angel Gabriel appeared to him again, in the form of a man, standing on the horizon. Everywhere he turned his head, he was there. No matter where he turned, the angel Gabriel appeared again. He said, "Muhammad, I am Gabriel, and you, Muhammad, are the messenger of God." And then, of course, the story goes on. He went back to his wife, was shaking with fear and confusion, and the story goes on and on and on. But
So then he must have been able to. Was he able to read from that day forward? And that's what
no.
made him
So
be
he
the.
was never. No, so he was not. No, he never learned how to read or write in his life. He was always an illiterate man.
So, like,
I don't know actually because his channel called.
if I'm just being like a well, not devil's advocate,
Hmm.
was born into a Muslim family and then decided to become an atheist. And so my question is how do you know any of that is actually real?
So wait, you said Alani? Oh, sorry, you're talking about yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, I understand. I thought you were asking if I became atheist. No. So
No.
okay, so basically, so you're asking how do we know? Okay, so the same way we know history. So for example, this is recorded in multiple authentic hadith. I mean, this is where it gets a bit technical, gets into the science of hadith. We can get into that if you want. I'm not the most knowledgeable in it, but we can get into it.
No,
Basically,
I guess like, is there any
yeah.
anything that is you're
Are you
talking
asking for,
about
like,
an angel coming from a sky to
Yes.
a specific individual?
Yes.
I mean, how is anyone can just make that claim, right?
Exactly. No, you're right.
So-
No, you're 100% right. So there's a
You're
couple.
asking
So
what facts do you have to back that? Is what you're trying to ask,
exactly.
right?
No, it's
Well,
a good
not
question.
just like facts that he has, just anyone.
No, it's a good question. So basically, when it comes to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he claimed to be a prophet of God. No one denies this, right? So there's a handful of options that could be a reality. He lying, lied. He just made it up for whatever reason, whatever motive. Uh, he was deceived. You know, he maybe saw a devil or saw something else besides the angel Gabriel. The only people who claim that, by the way, are naive Christians, and we can get into that. Number three. That's number
He
three.
was insane.
Yeah, exactly. He was insane. He was just seeing things, right? He's just seeing things. You know, he thought he was seeing an angel, whatever. And the last option, he's telling the truth, right? And we can go through each of these options, and we can determine which of them logically makes most sense, if you ask me. Are you with me so far?
Yeah. With the
Yep.
events of
Yeah. So right. So let's start with I'll start with the crazy one. I like that one. He was crazy, right? Think of it this way. Do you think a crazy person could basically here's this is what a crazy person does. A crazy person thinks that they're seeing things, right? They think that basically they're seeing an angel. You understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a crazy person will think this about themselves, right? Do you think a crazy person could basically speak up against his entire society, tell everyone to go against all the morals of his society, and create one of the strongest empires in the world? I think a crazy individual can do that. Mentally
Yes.
deranged
They wouldn't
person
have
could
the
do that.
mental capacity to do
Yeah,
that.
no, I absolutely do. In a way, actually, I think it would
Mhm.
actually take a crazy person to do something like that.
So
Because
you think so crazy in what way?
like I go look at like Hitler, he's crazy. Like I'm not saying he was a good person, but look at what he was able to
wait. We're not
accomplish.
talking about crazy. No. You're mixing the definitions of crazy. We're not talking crazy like he had some very rash goals. We're talking crazy like not mentally stable. Like he genuinely was seeing things he could not. If someone is seeing things, seeing false things, how can they come to logical? How are they able to come to logical conclusions? How are they able to make logical decisions? How are they able to carry about their day? How are they able to be function in society? Can't.
Because they have
Person of
split
that kind.
personalities. That's why.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, also go look at
It's
the.
because they
Okay,
have
no, but-
split personalities. They can be one person 1 minute and another person the next.
But then
They're very
how would you be able
clever.
to how would you be able to function and be able to
Because
govern an
the
entire
mind
society?
is very clever and it can. It's very powerful. And
second. So
some
how-
people use
okay.
that power to control.
One second. Can somebody govern a society and successfully run a society and not be able to be themselves the whole time?
If
One
it's
second
what they
one second
want,
be this kind of person, one second be that kind of person.
if it's what they want, that's what they do. They try to convince people that that's the right thing to do.
No, that's a
And
lot. No, but that's a
people
lot. No. What? No, good. Exactly. That gets into the liar.
Convincing.
No,
Yes,
exactly. So he's
they are.
so
They are
It's
pretending.
a,
a
well,
liar.
it's a gradient.
But the
It's
thing
a
is
So that means
gradient.
they're
It
lying.
doesn't have to be
big,
So
one
that means
or
they're
the
lying.
other.
it's a
Okay,
big thing,
so that
and
means they're lying.
it's all
that means they're
joined
lying.
No,
together.
crazy
Yes,
is
but
a
you get
gradient.
the crazy and the lying, and they
Uh-huh.
all base together, and you get
You can't be.
this
Well, no, hold on.
one
Man, 1 second.
When
So,
he talks
Dolly,
about
1 second.
crazy,
person.
you just think of somebody who
You
is in the
do.
mental
One-
asylum think of it that
One
way.
second.
Like that crazy.
One second. So Dolly, you're conflicting two different things. If he is choosing and intentionally acting in this certain ways, that means he's lying. If he's intentionally making things up, that's lying.
He's doing both.
It's like
He's
hold
very
on.
clever.
No,
He's
man,
very
Dolly, one
clever.
second.
You've got to
Dolly,
remember that.
Dolly,
You're
one
clever.
second.
You trick
Hear me out.
people's minds.
Dolly, hear me out. Hear me out. If
Oh,
he's
hold,
if
hold
he's
on
telling
one sec.
people things that
Can I
one
can I mention one
Just
thing?
sec.
Have you seen a crazy person and be able to tell this person is really crazy? And in a society where
mean-
he lived for 40 years,
No,
where he
not
was known to
everybody
be
knows that
trustworthy.
everybody's crazy because it's like the
And-
people
and
that
also
kill
one
go
thing
around
also,
killing
was
people.
he
You don't
known?
know that they are, but
So Dolly,
until
one
they
second.
actually do these things, you
Okay,
know,
Dolly, can you try
and
to
some
listen?
people live amongst these people and don't know what
Okay.
they're like. This is what personality they
So
have.
Dolly,
That
one
it's
second.
all
One second.
joined together,
So
and that's
Dolly,
what
one
becomes the
within the
person.
society,
Okay.
they are
Faraz, one second. Faraz, one
that-
second. One second. So Dolly, so how about just listen here? Okay, let me break it down. Okay, if someone is intentionally acting in one way in front of people and then acting another way in front of other people, that's a liar. It's a deceiver.
Of course it is. But what
Okay.
you
No,
can't,
no,
it
one
doesn't
second. One
mean that
second.
you
Just one
can't
second.
be
One second.
crazy
One second.
and lie.
If
Can
some,
he please
now,
talk?
what do you define? Okay, man. When I say
And then
crazy,
when
I
he's
think the problem.
finished,
I think you're getting confused between the definitions of. I'm talking crazy. Someone who is seeing things. Someone. If right now, if right now, if I start saying, "Mom, hi, mom," let's say my mom's passed away, but she hasn't. Forbid, but if someone genuinely thinks they're seeing their dead parents, or someone is says, "I'm seeing ghosts," they genuinely believe they're seeing ghosts. She's gone. She's gone.
Okay, well,
Anyway.
I'll jump on what she was saying. I mean, go look at Waco, Texas, that cult where the whole building burnt down. There's like a documentary about that fool that I watched a while back. I mean, you're talking about a crazy person who convinced a fair amount of people that he was a agent of God or a prophet or whatever. So much so where he was convincing people to have sex with their wives and
No,
pregnant
but the
them
issue
and
is
then have.
you're conflating two things.
No,
The
no,
issue,
no, no, no,
I'm
no.
not-
Listen. You've been talking. Let me talk. And
Okay,
so
sorry. You're conflating things. That's why.
no, I'm saying when you start getting to this crazy level where you think you're a prophet, and I'm not suggesting that's exactly what was going on with Muhammad. You were just bringing up a point. Okay, like there becomes this gradient, this bound of like, okay, are you lying? You know, do you lie to yourself to the extent where you actually start believing these things? You start, lying a little bit about some things to help promote, what you're already talking about or
I
what
think
you're
you're
actually
overthinking this a
believing.
little bit.
I
think you're
think when you're talking about the largest religion,
like this idea that you're into, that a person gets to that point and then they are successful in it, is from like you'd see that in a movie or like a serial killer TV show. But in reality, to think that people around him weren't wise enough to see through his lies is the real problem,
No. So
because it
one
wouldn't
second,
be
Donut.
possible.
No, that's for a good point. So no, here's the thing, Austin. So there's a problem here. Sorry, let me just grab my hand. What's going on? I had to put it down. I think you're kind of overthinking this a little bit. So if someone thinks that an angel's visiting them, that's the person I'm thinking of crazy. If somebody is not being visited by an angel, but then is lying, and he's fully aware that he's lying, that this doesn't happen, that's a liar. Understand?
so
This
everybody's
is not an
perception
either-
of
this is
what
not
is
an
reality
either or.
and
This
how
is
you
not a
should act and
binary.
what is crazy, and everybody has a different idea on what they believe someone who's crazy is.
But when I say
So,
okay, fine,
so
fine.
it's all
Let's
all
forget the word
gathered
crazy.
of
Forget the word crazy. Forget the word
It's
crazy. How about,
it's
for
not
example,
this is not a
he was
binary.
he was mistaken. Mistaken. How about that? Is that the word mistaken?
No,
was honest
he
about
could be a little crazy, a little mistaken, and a little bit of a liar too. I mean, I don't. Not and here's the deal: like no
Okay.
one in here
Okay, so Austin,
knows who
if we
this
can.
person was.
Okay, so Austin, we're trying to eliminate
Yeah.
those one at a time. That's the thing. Every
No,
time I
no,
try to
but see,
eliminate
that's what
one,
I'm
you say,
saying. Like
"Well, it
you
doesn't matter. You can be all
probably.
of them."
Oh no, I've heard this argument in regards to Jesus, right? Like I've heard this exact same argument in regards to Jesus.
Okay.
You're either a liar, crazy, it's the same argument, but now you're just doing it for Muhammad. And I guess the point I'm saying
That's a
is
good
like
point.
this is a gradient. It could be a mixture of those things, you know.
So Austin,
Like
if we
the
eliminate
idea-
all of them, can any of them be true?
Hello, Bilo.
Basically,
How
I'm
are we
trying to
going
refute.
we can't even eliminate any of them
There is
because
somebody
Okay,
inside
watch
because
me.
it
Whoa, whoa,
becomes
whoa.
semantics.
But you're not even letting him
at some point.
speak about it. Every time he tries to
well,
speak,
no,
you say,
basic,
but he could also be lying. He could also be crazy. You got to
No,
eliminate
because
one at a
what
time.
I'm
You can't
stating
eliminate
is
them
like
all
you're
at once.
trying to say this is a binary, and I'm saying it's a gradient.
okay, Austin. If I refute the idea that he was crazy, and then I refute the idea he was lying, can he be doing both? No, obviously not. If I refute both,
Okay, yeah,
then he can't be doing
but
either.
we're gonna run into the problem where you can't, because
Well,
you're gonna try to use
I disagree.
logic about something that no, because
Let
there's
him
no
try.
objective
At least
way
let him
to
try.
determine who he
Well, I use
was
logic. Is that a
and
problem?
what specifically happened, and that's
Okay.
the problem, right?
Okay.
Where
And
this
your
was
mind
what?
is stuck on that, and he has a different opinion and a different idea. So why don't are you
Okay,
not willing to
so Austin,
listen
it seems
to
like so there's a handful of options here. I'm trying to eliminate one at a time, and basically when I go through one, you say, no, it could be those. Let me get to those first. Let me get to those. Let me finish with this. Let me get to those. And yes, by the way, if somebody thinks that they're seeing an angel, but they're honest about it, that's not a liar. If somebody isn't seeing an angel and he knows that, and he knows there wasn't an angel, but he says there was, that's a liar. Now he's saying, oh well, it could be multiple ones. Okay, if we eliminate one at a time, it could be neither of them. Simple. Boom, boom, boom. With me?
Can you use
I
the word
understand what you're
schizophrenic
saying.
rather
Are you
than
not understanding
crazy?
what I'm saying though?
Okay. So Austin, if he wasn't a liar, if we can disprove that, and then he wasn't mistaken. You don't want to use the word crazy, fine. He wasn't mistaken. Can you? Okay, so Austin, if I think I see something, and then I say I saw something, if I genuinely thought that, am I lying?
you don't think you're lying but someone
Yeah,
else can perceive you as
No,
lying,
but
like
that's
he
not.
had to have been lying.
No, but that's not a lie though. A lie is where you say something intentionally that's not true. I'm not intending to do that.
Right.
Right. So that's not a lie. That's mistaken. Right.
Okay.
Now, if I claim I saw an angel and I know for a fact there was no angel, is that me being mistaken or is that a lie?
It's a lie. You're intentionally telling
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it really is that simple. I mean, you can disagree. That's fine, but
No,
it really
it's
is
not
that simple.
that. It's just it's going to come down to this game of like we're going to attempt to use logic for something that we
What do you
can't
use?
actually prove.
No,
okay, that's look. I
called
love logic. I read about it. What I'm telling you is
Thank
can't
you. That's a good point.
certify any of this.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay,
the
Austin,
issue with
Okay,
religion.
well, Austin,
you can't
you're free
certify
to
it.
disagree. Okay, well, Austin, if we come to a logical conclusion, you can't come to, and so if you just choose not to agree with my logical conclusions, that's fine. You don't have to.
Okay,
I'm
no.
just
What
demonstrating
I'm
why.
saying is, I think your logic is sound. Is okay. Your logic is totally sound. What I'm telling you is,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
your logic is
Appreciate
totally
that.
sound. If I didn't make that clear, my apologies. What I'm saying
fair
is,
enough.
okay,
Mhm.
that's totally fine.
Mhm.
The problem is, we're talking about a person that lived
Mhm.
almost 1,000 years ago, right?
1400 years
Excuse me,
ago.
over whatever,
Yeah, whatever. That's
ballpark,
fine.
a long time ago, and all of these stories are not certifiable. You know, we
Okay,
can
so
say, oh, well,
Austin,
the
that's
Quran
a
or the
red herring.
Hadith
Austin,
is a historical text or whatever.
Austin. That's a red herring. That's kind of a red herring. So if you want to get into the authenticity of the stories,
That
we
is
can get into
not.
that.
That is. I am not red herring it. I'm more so saying we're gonna keep because we will have
Okay.
the debate where you're gonna make your logical conclusion, which is probably
I hope so.
sound. Okay.
Thank you.
And then
Mhm.
it's gonna come down to okay, that logically sounds great.
Mhm.
How is any of this provable, right? And that's the problem I have
So-
when I
So
go
you're
you
looking
like-
for
would you like to-
factual proof. You're
Would you
looking
like to
for
get into that?
absolutely
Okay,
factual
so
proof.
Oh,
basically,
100%, yes.
So would you like to get into how we know that whether things happened or not in history?
Uh, I'm not. Let's know what you're gonna say. Oh, okay, all of these
Well,
things that occurred in the Quran and talked about are historical facts.
I'm not even talking about the Quran. I'm not even talking about
Talking about history generally.
just history
Yeah.
in general.
Okay,
Forget
yeah,
the
but
Quran, just
when
history.
you start talking history, we're talking about an angel coming from the sky, talking
I
to
haven't
a
even,
person.
bro, forget that.
No,
Forget
but
that
that's
in
what
particular.
I'm talking to you about. You're gonna talk
Okay, but
about
I'm not
history.
okay.
I'm talking about
Huh.
these magical events.
Okay, but Austin, we
that
have to establish a
supposedly
principle.
occurred.
Austin, we have to establish a principle first. I want to get to the root. You're insisting on the branch. Before we get to the branch, let's talk about the root. But the only reason I was explaining that to her because I was just explaining the very first story of how the Prophet Muhammad received, how
And
the
I
angel Gabriel.
asked him that.
No, but
Fair
I'm
enough,
aware
right.
of the story as myself. We were
Okay, that's
talking
fine.
about it, so I was, yeah.
No, but here's the thing. Okay, so if we let me just help you understand. So if we establish the Prophet Muhammad was a true messenger of God, that means what he claimed was true. That means this story did occur. Understand?
No, it doesn't.
Now, if you want to now if you want to discuss, okay, did this claim? I don't know why that's funny. The what do you call it? If sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So but now if you want to ask, okay, how do we know that this event happened in history, or how do we know that people claimed this in history, right? That's a different discussion. We can talk about the authenticity of hadith. I'm not the most knowledgeable, but I can get into the basics. But if we establish that Muhammad is a messenger of God, that means what he came with is true. That's simple. That's what I was going
I
for.
don't
But now
think
you're
it
saying,
is
well,
that simple though.
And he even
okay,
went
well, I
back to
disagree.
say, science and history. You wanted factual proof. None of us were around and seen some of the things that scientists claim. None of us were around and seen any facts. It was what
Or
someone said or put out there that we then believed were facts too,
We could still
that went
scrutinize it.
along. Yeah. Which you,
Sorry, guys. You know what I need?
Did the apple
Water.
fall on Newton's head or not? How do you know? You weren't there.
That's a good
You believe it?
example.
right,
Where's my water
I
bottle?
mean, I think it's
by what someone
inconsequential
has
because
said or wrote.
Here we go.
I think that part is. I get what you're trying to say. I guess you're talking about basing your entire life off of stories.
Okay,
That
but-
becomes problematic.
history. Okay, hold on, Austin. So, for example, if a historian wants to base their life upon the existence of a certain civilization, or if a scientist wants to base their life off of a theory that was developed 1,000 years ago, blind faith. There's a difference between faith and blind
No,
faith. You seem to think.
for science, it is not blind faith because you can test it again and certify it's true.
So
Okay,
you're
so
saying
how
that
about we
science-
test the?
go
Okay,
ahead,
so
go
what? So
ahead,
what?
go
So
ahead.
so why don't you let? How about we test the claims of Muhammad?
How are we going to certify that he spoke
Well,
to
if
an angel? An angel came from down.
If we
from the sky?
demonstrate,
It-
if we
it's going
demonstrate
to
that,
be, it's going to be reliant upon trust.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's
So
the
Austin,
issue
for
with
example.
science. You
Okay,
don't
so
have
Austin,
to
for
trust
example.
it. You can just verify it.
Okay, so Austin, for example, can you prove that the moon landings occurred? Okay, how about this? Do you believe the moon landings happened?
Yes,
Okay, why?
because they put they have a device on the moon where when you point a laser at its specific location, the laser shoots back because
Who
it's a
told you that?
reflective device.
I agree, but who told you that? Have you done that yourself?
I personally haven't, but my friend who has his PhD in astrophysics has.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how about this?
So
Me
you
personally, I
trusted
don't-
what he said.
Exactly. But even if he didn't have that, I personally don't have any friends who've shot a laser at the moon. I mean, if you do, that's cool. But I personally haven't done. I personally don't know any. Actually, I take it back. Actually, I had a government teacher who said he did that once. But anyways,
So are you going to try to make the argument that
1 second, bro.
I can't believe anything? It's either an all.
No,
it's
no,
another
no,
binary?
no.
Let him
no,
finish. Let
no.
him finish.
Okay. So hold on. When you said it's not blind faith, okay. So there's a difference between faith and blind faith. You can have faith based on reason, and you can have blind. So, for example, if I told you I believe there's a unicorn behind that tree over there, you asked me why. I said I just believe. That's called blind faith. That leads to delusion. Okay. Now, if I told you, for example, I believe that moon landings happened, you can ask me why. I said, well, because I've read it in many textbooks. I have a friend of mine who shot the laser at the moon and the thing came back and this, that, the other. These are
You mind
sound
holding on
reasons.
to this thought for 1 second? I can turn my heat off. Just give me like half a second.
ahead.
It's getting like stupid hot in my house.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Take your time. I
The
need a sip of
second
water
is up.
anyway. I gotta mute myself because I don't want you guys to hear me gulping.
Don't shush me.
Okay, I'm back.
Alhamdulillah.
Sorry about that.
Alhamdulillah. Water's good for you guys. Stay hydrated. No, so what I was saying was basically is that there's a difference between faith and blind faith. You can have faith based off of delusion. You can have faith based off of reason, even if it's not actual tangible evidence. So just to be clear, I don't have any physical tangible evidence that the Prophet Muhammad spoke with the angel Gabriel, if that's what you're looking for. Understand? Just like I don't have any tangible evidence. Just like I don't have any tangible evidence. I personally haven't seen any. I mean, it exists, but I haven't personally seen any tangible evidence that the moon landings happened. Or better yet, I have a simpler example. I haven't had any tangible evidence that my mother, the woman I call my mother, gave birth to me, but I have my reasons for believing that. And I don't think you would consider my. I mean, if I listed the, I mean, I'm sure the woman you call your mother, you believe she gave birth to you. I'm sure you have reasons for that, and I don't think those are based off of blind faith. Those are based off of reason. You understand?
Yep.
Good. So when you ask me, okay, how do you know that Angel Gabriel visited the Prophet Muhammad? Okay, if we can logically establish that he was who he claimed to be, and he claimed to be the last and final messenger of God, and we can basically he claimed this. He claimed that he's the prophet of God. If we establish that logically, rationally, that means whatever he says goes. You understand? You gave the example of that cult leader in I forget which country you said. Okay, we can test his claims. Simple. Make sense?
How are you going to test a claim of a god existing?
Okay, so hold on. So okay, so now we're kind of shifting the goalposts. Are we talking about the existence of God? We're talking about specifically whether Muhammad is a messenger of God, or which one? Because those aren't necessarily the same thing.
I'm not attempting to change a goalpost. I put it all in a box because I see they're conducive to one another.
Well, no, obviously they're related to one another, but there are people who you can believe in God and not believe in Muhammad.
Yeah, I know, and believe in a different religion. I understand that.
Exactly right.
Okay, so how are you going to confirm the moon was split in half, for example? That's a claim.
Okay, so hold on. So first of all, if you want to argue about that, you first have to believe the creator exists. Do you believe a creator exists?
I think the evidence laid out in front of us isn't conclusive to say one does exist, but if I had some evidence, I would then believe it. So
no. Do you understand what the word belief is?
Yeah,
belief.
Yeah,
okay, so belief is where you take something to be true without tangible evidence.
I think belief is something that you don't actually get to choose. I don't choose to believe something.
Well, I mean,
then how does your belief happen if you don't choose to believe it?
So I'm not forced. I'm not forced to be.
I'll give you an example. Could any of you guys choose to believe the moon is made out of cheese right now?
Depends. So if you hold on one second.
Crazy person
you truly believe it, like in your heart, you truly believe the moon would be.
Hold on one second. So hold on one second. So are you saying? So for example,
yeah.
When you say you can't choose what you believe, you're saying that you can't choose. So for example, let's say let's say if I write on a paper 1 + 1 = 2, and I show you, like I work it out for you. I mean, it wouldn't take that long, but if I work out a math problem for you, and then I show you the conclusion, and then you see the conclusion, like it all makes sense, but then and then so you out of your own free will came to that you out of your own free will came to that rational conclusion, but you could have chosen to. You can choose to ignore the evidence. There are people who do that. There are people who ignore evidence. There are people who all the time, see or presented things on a silver platter. And they say, you know what? Like, for example, there are people of other religions, for example, like I'll say atheists or Christians or Jews or Hindus or whoever you're speaking with. You can, for example, show them evidence against what they believe. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Or they'll say, you know what? I see it, but I can't. People do that all the time.
Yeah, belief is something you're compelled to. That's why I don't think being compelled to something is a choice.
So you don't think you make your own decision on how?
No, so there's a difference. There's a difference between believing something in your heart and choosing to ignore it, and whether or not that thing in your heart is there or in your mind. You want to use the heart in your mind, right? So, for example, if I work out this math problem to you and I show you how it makes sense in your head, maybe it makes sense to you, but for whatever reason, you say, I don't want to accept it, right? That's the ego. So you can choose not to accept it. That doesn't mean you don't believe it. So there's a difference. So for example,
I'm talking
if someone
about
proves
belief in your heart.
That
is something that happens to you. I don't think you can I say the cheese moon thing because it's stupid, right? And when you're trying to make a case for something, pushing it to the asymptotic extreme is a good way to talk about it.
And what's your point? I'm confused.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing anyone. I mean, maybe there could be, but I can't choose to believe the moon is made out of cheese. I can try my best. I can tell myself every day, but it's something that you're compelled to believe, right? So
I mean, you can choose to quote unquote adopt that belief, but you may in your heart because you're a logically thinking. because you're a logically an honest
Austin,
thinking person.
Austin, can I ask you
like,
where you're from? Where are you from, Austin?
So my dad's a refugee from Egypt, and my mom's Polish and Canadian, and I
No,
live
currently,
out
where are
of
you living?
DC.
You're
DC.
DC.
That-
So could you choose to
Washington.
believe Trump won the election, or could you choose to believe that Biden won the election?
I mean, yeah, I would say if someone had a gun to my head, I'm guessing Biden won, but I mean, I don't know.
So then it
Trump
goes back
supporters
to
believing would Trump supporters believing that they think that he won the election, is that their belief or somebody's forcing it upon them?
I don't want to get too far off the topic.
Their
So
belief
basically,
is compelled.
yeah.
They're compelled to believe
Yeah.
it for whatever reason.
They're
Well, no, but
compelled
so
not
Austin- so
necessarily
Austin- so
by
Austin, for
somebody,
example-
it's their own selves.
Mhm.
So Austin, for example, when a little kid believes in the tooth fairy, for example, are they forced to believe that, or do they choose to? Whether it's substantiated or not, whether it's logical or not, do they choose to have that belief, or are they forced? I mean, I don't know of any parent that forces their kids to believe in the tooth fairy. If you do, then
Certainly.
They may be
I-
told, which they're told about the tooth fairy, which then makes
because they're a
them
child.
decide
they're
whether they
told
want to
about
believe
it.
it or not.
And they're compelled to believe it.
how are they compelled?
Yeah,
Why are they-
I'll tell you what I'm getting at. So if you go look at Pascal wager, are you guys familiar with Pascal's wager?
Not really, no.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's the idea a little bit. Basically, it's the idea that you might as well believe in God, because if you're wrong, God isn't real. Well,
No, so that's not a
disappear off
logical
into the ether.
conclusion. That's
No,
not
no.
a logical conclusion. That's out of
No, just
that's out of emotion.
hear me
Okay,
out.
hear
Go
him
on,
out.
go on,
All
sorry,
right.
go on.
The logic behind it is the most risky thing you can do is choose not to believe in God, because the consequences, if you're wrong, far outweigh
Yeah.
the consequences, or if you're wrong if you choose to believe in God. But if you go read into it a lot more, he talks about the idea that part of that is you have to start adopting these beliefs, and essentially, because you don't believe it in your heart, hopefully you eventually just trick yourself into believing it, because that's the logical thing to do.
Okay.
That's the idea of
So
Pascal's
I don't
wager.
necessarily
And
agree
so
with
the
that
idea
logic.
I look at that as invalid, because
Mhm.
I can't lie to myself
I agree with you. I agree.
that
Agree.
God is real, So that's why I'm saying
I
it's
agree.
like, this is not my choice. This is something I've studied about, and I would much prefer to believe God is real. I do not
Okay.
see this as a bad thing. I would prefer
Yeah,
it.
so there's a difference. There's a difference between you
However,
wanting something
I-
to be true and you actually thinking it's true. Basically, you're saying.
No,
This
well,
is
that's what I'm getting at. Where I would like it to be true, but I cannot
Sure.
compel myself to believe it to be true. This is not
That's fine,
my
that's fine.
choice. I want it
That's
to
good.
be true, and so that's where I'm
Thank
getting at. Where someone can be compelled versus, you're either compelled or just believe it. Belief is not a choice. It's something you're
I understand what you're
compelled to believe.
Okay,
At
fair
least
enough. I get what
belief
he's
in
saying.
the heart.
I
what
get
I'm
what he's
saying.
saying. So basically, he's saying that once you become convinced of something, you can choose to ignore it. You can choose to not act upon it. Ultimately, that's not going to take away your conviction. Is that what you're saying, basically?
If we want to simplify belief in the heart, I don't believe.
Okay, conviction.
I don't think you can trick yourself into believing something.
Well, fair enough. I mean, you can lie to yourself about it, but you can't force yourself to truly deep down believe something. I agree with you. Right. So, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, so
Yep.
so do you genuinely believe? Are you convinced in the heart or in your mind, whatever, that there is a creator?
No.
You're not. Okay, cool. So from that, so if we haven't yet established that, then arguing about whether Muhammad is a prophet of God is irrelevant, because if you
Sure.
don't believe that there is a God in the first place, you understand?
Sure.
That makes sense, right? So, and you ask, oh, how do we know the moon split? Okay, well, whether the moon split or Muhammad's a prophet or these things, these are all things that ultimately lead to whether or not a creator exists. You can't build a house on top of sand. You have to first lay the foundation. The foundation is God's existence. Understand?
I think that's a little circular, because I think the method in which people, let's just suppose God is real. The method that people derived the information of God being real, or through the act of splitting the moon, was the act of Jesus walking on the water, was things of that nature.
Not necessarily.
In a large part, certainly is, yeah.
Not necessarily. I
What,
mean, just
then
to go
why
with those
else would
examples.
have God had to do any of that?
Just those examples. I mean, you do realize that the pagan Arabs at the time
There's
of the
much
Prophet Muhammad
more. I'm
believed.
aware of that.
One second. So basically, So first of all, God can can give a prophet a miracle to prove he's a prophet of God. The person who's doing that may not necessarily disbelieve in a creator. So for example, when Jesus healed the sick and raised the dead, as we Muslims do believe, we don't believe that he was proving that God exists because the Jews around him already believed God exists. He was proving his prophethood, right? But that's besides the point. Forget those stories. You don't even have to be. You don't have to be a Muslim or a Christian or an atheist. Or okay, you don't have to be a Muslim. You don't have to be. You don't have to subscribe to any religion to basically go with this logic I'm using right now, right? If we can establish logically that there exists, logically, right? Now I get what you're saying. Okay, people there were prophets who used these miracles to prove their prophethood. They weren't necessarily proving God's existence. They were proving their own prophethood to people who already believed God exists. But I'm talking about the logical, rational conclusion that the Creator exists. That's what I'm getting to. With me?
Yeah, and I would just disagree that I think you have to make plenty of assumptions to make those logical conclusions
that's an assumption.
sound.
That's an
If
assumption you
you
made about
believe
me.
that there was
That's
not
an
a
assumption.
creator,
I think it would be
No,
useful.
I
How
mean,
are any of us-
I've listened to hours
with that.
and
No,
hours and hours
I've been
of
through this many
logical
times.
I honestly have a
arguments.
question for you. If
Yeah.
you believe there is not a creator, how did any of us become?
Well, that's okay. Yeah. He could
I
just say he
think
doesn't
it's
know,
so
which is
far
fine.
above us. Yeah, I think it's.
Okay,
I think
okay.
And you
it's
have
just
no
really too
factual
far.
evidence of how any of us became.
Yeah.
Correct?
Okay, 1 second. So
I don't.
for example, okay, right. No, well, let's just get into this. Okay. So Austin, we can lay out some options, and you can add one if you like. We can lay out some options, some logical options as to how this universe came into existence. Either one, the universe always existed. Okay, universe always existed eternally. Option two, it came into existence out of nothingness, it literally just appeared. Or option three, it came from something that eternally existed prior. You can add another one if you like.
No, I just know where this is going because I've heard it a million times. But
Okay, well,
maybe I'm wrong.
Wait,
Maybe
can
I am
I
wrong.
quickly like interject?
once is it related to this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, go on.
Okay, Austin, let me ask you something. You prove to me that God doesn't exist. Like I'm from the world.
No, donuts.
that
1
God
second. No,
does
donuts.
exist, right?
That's not how it works. No, donuts. Donuts.
Yeah,
1
I
second.
would agree.
That's
I
not
would agree with Room. How do you say your name?
Because
Rumzi?
I'd
It's
like to see some proof.
Rumzi.
That's all.
No, but donuts. The way it works is you don't prove that if I'm gonna make the claim that God exists, the burden of proof is on me.
He has to prove it. Yeah.
If someone wants to claim that this exists or that exists,
I understand that. I understand that. But what I'm saying is his claim is that God doesn't exist. So
he didn't make a claim.
No,
He
it's
didn't
not.
make a claim. No, he didn't make a
He
claim.
did not
just
claim
said,
God doesn't exist.
He just said, I asked him if he believes. That's not a claim. That's just his belief.
Fair enough.
No, fair enough. It's cool. Right, just because we don't want to misrepresent anybody, right? So basically, I laid out the three options that the universe came into existence out of nothing. Sorry, the universe always existed. That's the first option. Universe eternally existed. Option two, universe came into existence out of nothing because obviously it exists. Option three, or three, that's a three, right? Option three,
Yeah.
the universe came into existence from something that eternally existed prior, right? Can you add? Are there any other options you can think of, or an issue with these options?
I think the other option is ignorance.
That's not an option.
I know. No, that is totally an option in my opinion because, I like to think we're as humans we're relatively smart, but the idea is, man, the universe is so vast, so much we don't understand. There is, I just don't have this belief that 300-400 years into science that we can start fully laying out how the universe came to be. And so as a result,
we're not talking about Austin. The difference is we're not talking about how exactly. We're not talking about how. We're talking about the if. How, I get it. Yeah, we may not know everything about it. We're not talking about the how. We're talking about the if. So, for example, that tree. For example, right? A tree, it exists. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, in virtual reality, it does. I mean, maybe not in real life. Yeah. It's VR, guys. Don't worry. Okay. Right. So that tree, in VR at least, exists. We have a couple options. Either this tree always existed, this tree came into existence at some point out of nothingness, or it came into existence from something prior. So, I'm sorry, guys. 1 second.
I don't think that's
Everything
a perfect
always
analogy.
been here. Everything always been here.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Sorry, guys. sorry, guys. My sister came in. I'm sorry.
It's all
Siblings.
good.
Yeah. What happened was I have three of them, man. They're
True.
the what do you call it? So what was I saying? Yeah. So those are three options. Now how the tree came into existence, when it did, what were the step by step? We
I would
may
just
not know.
disagree with that analogy, though, and the reason why
Okay.
is because we've seen other trees. We know how trees
No, but
grow.
we're laying a
witnessed.
principle.
I've never witnessed the universe come into existence.
But okay. So let's say for example that you've never. Okay, let's say for example you've never seen a tree before. You can still come to that conclusion I just drew, right?
As one of the potential options, sure.
Well, I mean,
I'm
either
just
the
laying
tree.
out that look.
No, we have. Yeah, I agree. We happen to know where trees come from. That's cool. For example, but people didn't know it. At some point, people didn't know, right? But they could still come to the conclusion at these options. Okay, the tree either always existed this way. Two, it came into existence from just nothingness. Or three, what do you call it? It came from existence from something prior to it. I mean, you don't need to know where even if you don't know where trees came from, even if you don't know where anything came from, you can still come to that logical
I'm not
conclusion.
disagreeing that any of your three options are invalid. I'm also just saying a fourth option is, man, it very well might just be above our understanding. And so when I say we have to make assumptions, if we're laying out three options, we have to make an assumption that one of them are valid. That's based off of nothing.
What about this? What about this?
Saying
One second. You're breaking up. Your voice is breaking up. How about this? How about this? God either exists or doesn't exist. Agreed? Is there any other option?
God exists.
Yeah. Yes,
Well,
I agree with that.
Can there be a third option?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Well, no, but there can't be at all. Either God exists or doesn't exist. There is no third option. Agreed?
I mean,
okay.
That's right.
This universe.
It could be.
One second. Could be what?
Well, he can exist at one point, but then he can make himself not exist. As in, you can't observe him anymore.
Mechanics.
Well, no, but
that is
okay.
true.
Well, fair enough. Well, no, one second. But he can't exist and not exist at the same time, can he? It has to be one or the
Through
other.
his creation, but you got to see, from perspective. Like if we observe and say, say you created this world, right? And you wanted to observe your creation, but you didn't want your creation to see you. You would just be in the back.
No, we can. Okay, whether that logic makes sense is one thing, but hold on. So you're saying that creator can exist and not exist at the same time?
I'm just saying from this quantum mechanics books I read, and I'm not an expert on it. I just like reading about physics. Apparently, that is something which is true.
So Austin, just so I understand,
whether
you're saying that
applicable to God, I don't know.
Okay, fine. So you're saying that the God can potentially exist and also at the same time not exist. You're saying that's possible.
From what I read, maybe.
Okay, well, I mean, if that's what you honestly, if you genuinely think that's a possibility, man,
have you read anything about?
It's perception.
Chill, you can believe that if you like. That's no problem. I can't really have a discussion with you if you genuinely think that's possible.
But it's like status,
that's what I'm talking about. Have you read any? Answer my question. Have you read anything about quantum mechanics? How many books about it have you read?
Okay,
I've read.
I haven't. Okay,
some, and that is apparently something which is possible.
Let's chill. I haven't read a book. So quantum mechanics says that something can exist, and at the same time, that exact same thing can also not exist.
Yep.
I would love to see I would love to see a source for that. I would love to go read it.
You can't measure it. It's like trying to understand beginning of time. You can't see it because you wasn't there. But
we're not talking about the beginning of time. That's not the beginning of time.
Look, it's specifically talking about particles, right? So if that applies to something as large as a human being or a god or whatever I don't know. Yes, if you want to talk about quantum mechanics, which I'm not an expert in, I've just read some good, about it.
Okay, well, I mean,
it's like it has to do with the
really knows how
mathematics
it
inside
works,
of like matrices or something like that.
Okay. So
that makes that.
No one really knows that.
Okay, so Austin, I'm just gonna say this straight up.
Got theories.
Something. One second. Something cannot exist and then also simultaneously not exist. So, for example, this Earth cannot exist and also at the same time this exact same Earth not exist. You can't have those two things be the same. If you disagree, that's fine, but I can't really.
Yeah, well, if you disagree because you're just making an assumption versus what some PhD from MIT
making an assumption.
Studied,
okay.
By all means.
What about the existence
it is an assumption.
of the world?
Okay, well, guys, one second. 1 + 1 cannot equal 1 and also 2 at the same time. That's that simple. Either 1 plus 1 equals 1
This
or
is
1
kind
plus
of
1.
what I was talking about with the assumptions.
Like,
Because this agrees with
oh my-
your like, and this is I talk to my best friend who's a Protestant about this all the time. Logic is wonderful. Logic sounds great, but when logic fails to match reality, it doesn't mean the reality is wrong. It means the logic is wrong, and logic is not all encompassing.
Okay,
Austin,
right? Austin.
It's
so
a wonderful
can
first step. It's very important. Get what
so,
you're gonna say.
Austin, okay. So can
I'm
1 plus 1
uneducated about.
not equal 1? Can 1 plus 1 not equal 1? Sorry, well, so can 1 plus
Can we
1
just
not
drop
equal
the
2?
quantum mechanics talk because we're both uneducated about quantum mechanics?
I mean, well, bro, you
Okay.
can't bring it
So
up
let's
and then
just
use it as
pretend
your.
I never-
exactly. You brought it up.
Okay, well, Austin, with all due respect, I'm presenting you with a logical argument, and you using
Yeah,
hiding
no,
behind.
and this is what I'm
not hiding
talking
behind.
about.
Sorry,
This is
you
what I'm
use
talking
quantum
about.
mechanics.
Where it's like, let's just drop it because are you educated about quantum mechanics? The answer is no.
Well,
I'm
I
certainly
didn't bring
not
it up.
educated enough.
Well, I didn't bring it up though, Austin. I didn't bring it up. You did.
Okay, you asked if that was possible, and I said, well, it's funny because in this book about quantum mechanics that I've read, it stated that it is. Okay, I mean,
that's cool.
it's to that extent.
Again, I would love to see that reference, but regardless. Anyway, okay, so
after this, go read about it.
Perfect, cool. So you're saying that I'm making it when I say that. Okay, so for example, 1 plus 1 can only equal 2. 1 plus 1 cannot equal anything else. Is that an assumption?
How much do you know about quantum? We're going to keep going back and forth on this, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know enough, about quantum mechanics to make an argument about it, and I'm okay with not.
Bro, it's a dude. Forget. Why do you? No, dude. Why do you keep bringing up quantum mechanics? You keep saying.
Because you're trying to disprove
that's the layout
something
of the
that
world
I
that
brought
we're
up
talking
quantum
about.
mechanics, and I'm saying if we're going to make this
You
argument,
just said let's forget quantum mechanics. Now you're bringing back
quantum
quantum
about two parties that don't understand.
He's talking about logic.
You asked if it was possible, and I said I read it in a book that said it was. That is far above my skill set and knowledge.
Okay, cool. So your book tells you that something 1 plus 1 cannot equal 2. Is that what your book is saying?
No.
Okay, well, Austin, look, just be honest, mate. Can 1 plus 1 not equal 2?
Can 1
it's not
plus
a quantum
1 not?
That's not a quantum mechanics question.
I brought up a reference of quantum mechanics, so why are we debating it? Because none of us are here.
It's not a quantum mechanics question, bro. It's not a quantum mechanics question.
Yeah, but when you ask if something can exist and not exist at the same time, that kind of is a quantum mechanic question from what I've read about it. And that's why I brought it up.
You can't. Okay, bro. First you brought up quantum mechanics, and then when I questioned you on it, you said let's forget quantum mechanics, and now you're coming back to quantum mechanics.
Oh my God, I'm bringing it up. I'm explaining to you why I brought it up in the first place. Because you asked if something can exist and not exist at the same time. I don't have my PhD in mathematics.
Okay, that's fine, bro. That's fine. That's fine.
I've taken was Calc
remember what I
3.
said earlier?
I don't understand matrices enough to argue the existence of quantum mechanics and how something can exist and not exist at the same time.
That's fine.
So you don't know.
So you're going to make this argument trying to logically prove why it's inconsistent, and I'm going to tell you, well, you're not really qualified to do that. Just admit that. Just like I'm admitting I'm not qualified to make that argument.
Awesome. 1 second. Donuts. 1 second. Man. Okay, so Austin. Like I said before, when I asked you, do you believe something can exist and also at the very same time not exist? You said you don't know. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, let's forget it. I said, I can't continue the discussion. You're the one who started saying, well, you started throwing the whole, quantum mechanics. Are you educated, bro? I never claimed to be a quantum quantum physicist. That's the word. Quantum physicist, right?
Sure.
Never claimed that, right? Never claimed that. I simply said I can't continue a discussion. If you believe something can exist and also not exist at the same time, if I say is 1 plus 1 equal to 2 always, or can it equal something else, and you say you don't know, that's fine. I have no hard feelings, but I can't have it. I can't really continue with you if I can't get past that.
Okay, like let me. Are you trying to bring up the 1 plus 1 equals whatever as a way to disprove two things existing at the same time and not existing?
No. So what I'm saying is 1 plus 1 can only equal 2. It can never equal anything else because 1 plus 1 cannot equal.
I mean, you can make
anything
a
other than 2.
mathematical proof that says otherwise. If you want my honest opinion,
you can make a mathematical proof that 1. There's no mathematical proof that can prove that 1 plus 1.
My math professor has shown me you can make a mathematical proof that disproves it. So I think it's all that relevant.
How many fingers am I pointing up?
Jesus Christ! See, what's the highest math you've taken, man?
Math 5, linear algebra. I've taken Calc 1,
Okay,
Calc
you take
2,
linear
differential
algebra. You
equations,
should have
linear
had
algebra.
so you should understand logic, mathematical proofs enough. Where some professor, literally anyone here, go Google mathematical proof.
Hey, dude,
disproving
Austin,
1 + 1 = 2.
Austin, just chill out. Austin, every time Austin, notice every time I say I can't continue the discussion, you can believe what you like. You start questioning my dignity, my intelligence. It's fine, man.
That's because you're bringing up does 1 + 1 = 2, and I'm saying, well, it's funny because my math professor has shown me a proof that can make the arguments, show that's not the case.
Okay, cool. And then I asked you, how many fingers am I pointing out?
Austin, you brought up quantum mechanics, but
okay, look, Austin, if you genuinely don't know if something can exist and not exist at the same time, that's fine. You can have that. No hard feelings. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging. Yes, I know 100%.
Okay, yeah.
What's your
one
answer?
finger. One second. One finger.
Argue quantum mechanics, and there's quantum physicists that say otherwise.
Austin,
through legitimate scientific
in academia
experiments.
Austin.
So then,
in
how
academia,
are you so sure?
Okay, Austin. In academia, saying I know there's some dude out there who said this is not a response.
It is not some dude. This is like, I don't want to say consensus because quantum mechanics is still really new, but there's a boatload of evidence from my understanding, and I'm not an expert. Suggests. See, but this is the deal. You're so sure of this. You haven't studied it, right? And don't you think that's kind of a problem?
What are you arguing about?
No, answer. Do you think that's not a problem for you to make an assumption based off something you haven't studied?
Austin, you want me to, Austin, just so I understand, you're asking if I've studied if something can exist and not exist. You're asking if I've studied if something can exist and also at the same time.
I'm asking if you study quantum mechanics.
No, I have not.
Okay, so
wait, hold on. Yeah. So you're 1 second. Okay, Kader, 1 second.
I've read a book that stated this, and when I'm bored on YouTube, I like to listen to documentaries and stuff about physics and such.
Okay, so
I'm not gonna sit there and
you got it,
hard feelings.
Don't worry.
Austin, hard feelings. I said this to you. If you believe that something can exist and not exist at the same time, that's fine. Or you don't know, that's fine. I think the reason why you're getting a bit,
and I'm telling you, there's information that's out there otherwise, and you just wanted to validate.
That's fine.
You get screwed with your logical argument about God.
How about this?
That's
okay,
pretty
cool.
common.
Bring me that information, and then we'll talk. Okay. Until then, have a nice day. Cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to. So you want me to take your
guys?
word
Am I being unfair here, guys? Come on, what's going on here?
Yeah,
bro. Okay.
No, that's exactly what's going on. And honestly, how relevant is? I'll tell you why it's an issue for you. I believe it's an issue for you because the logical arguments we're gonna make kind of screwed up a little bit due to this new information. So it screws with you because it's the basis of your belief.
You're saying?
Not the entire basis, but it's a part of it. It's part of the argument you're making.
You done? Okay, are you done?
Okay, yeah.
Dude, don't be smug like that. I'm just saying.
I'm not being a smug, dude. What the? Bro, stop. Okay, bro, you're not a victim, man. Stop victimizing yourself. You're fine.
You dead ass gaslighting this
man. I'm not a victim at all. You're saying, are you done? Are you done? That's a smug thing to do. Come on, and I'm not saying I'm this nice, dude.
I mean, I was waiting for you to finish. That's what polite people do. Okay, anyway, Austin. Have a nice day.
You really think it's polite to be like, are you done? You think that's polite?
I'll ask it if you're done speaking. That's what.
Come on, you know that's not polite.
Austin, have a nice day. That's simple. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, and I was stating that I don't have the knowledge to argue this.
Hope you got that.
So just outright, this is wrong. That's not true. Without any basis or information about it is a little ridiculous.
Khalas, guys, forget it, guys. Just forget it. Don't waste your time on it. Khalas, just whatever. Anyway, have a nice day, Austin. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Anyone that states that quantum mechanics is easy to explain, it is not easy to explain.
It's very much it. All you have to use is the things that you see in daily life. That's what